Howdy, gentle humans. Welcome back to my channel. That's right, you're back at SLOWGAZE. I always hear people talking about decluttering, myself included. It is the gateway into a more minimalist lifestyle and mindset. I would say it is a first and crucial step into taking charge of what you own, taking inventory, all that good stuff, and it is not to be dismissed at all. I certainly have a lot more to declutter in my life, and that will be coming more on my channel. I'll be doing more declutters with you, not just makeup, but in my home in general. But I wanted to address the cyclical nature of decluttering, because oftentimes it feels like that is the cure-all or the panacea, and I don't think that people are talking about how waste starts at the beginning. It always starts at consumption. And I want to talk more about how to curb consumption, specifically online shopping for this video, what to maybe do if you're starting a low buy or a no buy, less if you are doing that, because that is such a difficult and kind of radical anti-social activity. People socialize like they used to in malls. They talk about what they're shopping. You know, it's such a big thing here on YouTube too. Shop with me, don't shop with me. It's all about shopping, and it's a very social activity, and the minute you take yourself out of the conversation, it just becomes a void, and it's very hard to break out of this and understand the alternatives to shopping or constantly consuming actual items and trading money or time for them. But the idea that you don't always have to look outwards, you have to gaze inwards. As you know, I always say gaze inwards, slow down, and gaze inwards. And that's what this channel is about. This one video will not cure any of it. It won't reverse any habits, it won't build new habits, but I want to hopefully give you more tips and ideas for what possibly you could replace with those shopping habits that you've adopted and have reinforced through practice, because there are so many other alternatives out there, and I don't hear people talking about them in a really mindful way, because we talk about sports or crafts or other hobbies that are, you know, sometimes unattainable. They take a lot of time, they take a lot of gear, and it's not connected with how to get out of a shopping habit, how to stop the cycle of consumption. So if you're ready to go on that journey with me, please stay tuned and we'll dive right in. But before you do, if you haven't been here and want to subscribe, I'd love to see you back here. Thank you. I wanted to shout out all of the lovely humans who have been supporting this channel. Seriously, I am so grateful to you. I have a coffee page. You can buy me a coffee if you like my content, no pressure. And I know that not everyone is able to provide financially, and I totally understand. Other ways you can support me are giving my videos a thumbs up. That really helps my little channel grow. Same with commenting and engaging with me. I do read every single comment, and I'm on Instagram at SLOWGAZE. I have been DMing so many of you, and you've been just like overflowing my heart with love. So thank you so much for everyone who has recently reached out, touched my heart. Hopefully we can keep a good thing going. And I have also started a new website and a new newsletter that shows behind the scenes content, that shows things that I don't show on YouTube or Instagram. So if you wanted to get a little bit more intimate, shall I say, and hear more about my life going on behind the scenes, I do try to share really valuable tips and just insights through newsletters. It's only like 2 a month at this point, so it's not going to be a flood. It's not going to be anything crazy. I would love to light up your inbox with a little bit of poetry and light and happiness and slow gazery, if you will. Thank you to the viewer who already gave me this video idea or requested specifically that I do my own take on this topic. I have my notebook handy, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about my own shopping journey and my own relationship with consumption before I jump in, just to show you that I have been through it before. It's not all theory. I certainly have experienced going through lifestyle creep. When I was 22, I graduated with the BFA art school, and then I went into graphic design. I was making maybe $33,000 a year, which to me was a lot of money. Fast forward maybe 4 years, I was making $55,000 to $60,000, and that felt like so much money because I didn't have a kid, I didn't have a dog, I didn't have anything to pay for except my condo fees. I had a roommate, so they were partially paying for my mortgage and paying rent. So I felt like the world was my oyster, and I would go out every single night dating, trying to find my own rhythm, my social life, and it was just a lot of fun. With that came so much unwarranted, basically, consumption. I felt like I had to be really spiffy for my corporate job, drawn to buying shoes, to buying handbags, the coolest things. It almost was a question to me as to why people wouldn't spend so much, like I was, spending so much money on cool things because they were out there. I felt like I had the power finally to influence how I presented myself through the world, and I did it purely through cosmetic ways. Surface level, and I had a lot of fun. It was definitely playtime, play money, disposable income, like total privileged life. And I didn't realize I was doing it because I just didn't know what to do with the money. I didn't have that much money growing up. I didn't have numbers in my bank account. And this just felt like a revival and a lot of playtime. Fast forward 10 years, I'm now 31, and I have spent my last year, my 30th year, recalibrating my mind. I started working from home. I thought I was just reacting to the pandemic, but I also realized that I wasn't necessarily happy with my job. I started watching beauty YouTube for serious for the first time, and all of these triangulated into me overspending on luxury makeup, which when I say it out loud, it sounds ridiculous to me. Not that anybody who does this is ridiculous. I thought it was ridiculous because my own understanding of myself has not caught up with my consumption behaviors, my habits, and I have not let myself feel the full weight of what that means because I think I'm in denial. I was in denial that I was overspending, that I wasn't responsible with my money, and these were all things that I just pushed aside saying that's how other people do it. I was still able to pay off my credit card, and thankfully I wasn't in so much consumer debt or anything like that. I still felt responsible, and that's also what made it so hard. Everything seemed stable in my life, and yet I was pouring my time and energy into consuming the 3 C's of activities. Most activities fall under 3 C's, and I like to see them in kind of a pyramid shape because at the bottom we have consumption, which is what we'll be focusing on today. Consumption is the lowest part of the pyramid. It's like an upside down pyramid. It features just input. There's no obligation for action. It's usually a private affair. Obviously you can go to the movies, which to me is consumption. Most of the time you're watching YouTube videos or you're just taking in news and media in a private way. Low filter or low discernment between what comes to you. You know, even if you clicked on this video and you think that you made this free will choice, which you absolutely did, it was still fed to you through an algorithm based on things that you had liked before, and there are ads to this video, I'm fully aware. So consumption is kind of the least amount of resistance, provide the least amount of risk and reward. The next level up is the second C and what I call curation. Curation is pretty cool because this is something that sounds a little bit sexier, and it's in this middle pie because it's limited with input, an art exhibit with 5 pieces that are meant to go on the wall, and a limited finite output. You're only using those 5 pieces to create your collection or curation. What you get in, you put out. Obviously you kind of wrap it with more thought, more intention, with a lens of beauty as well, which I love about this center little part of the pyramid because it now requires effort put in and you will get a beautiful object out. I think a lot of people don't see beauty as part of a creative process all the time unless it's to do with the arts. But curation often means that you put some thought into a collection and some thought into the aesthetics of the collection, your own wardrobe. It's not just a collection of things that keep you warm, it's also a presentation, a visual representation of how people want to perceive you or how you think you want to be perceived, right? Pinterest is another great example if we want to stick to online examples. Multiple images, quotes, whatever you have, visual information into boards that have some cohesive story or some thread, and oftentimes people do it for mood boards or things to inspire how to decorate your room or what your bridal colors will be. These are all aesthetic choices that I think sometimes get overlooked in a creative process. And to me, this is great because you're exercising your imagination. It's not so literal. Sometimes it is, but it can take a little bit of a jumping gap between what you pin and what you actually see in the world. The more you can get acquainted with that gap and comfortable with that gap, all the more appreciative of the arts and how hard it is really to translate something from just like a pin with 5 tips on it to the final object or the final curation. So I guess baking, kind of a curation of ingredients. Get what you put in, and in the end there is a thoughtful process to it. There is a finite product, and there's a lens of beauty, and it's really a lovely middle space. So I think a lot of people love cooking and baking for that. It's not too much work, but it also rewards you greatly. Now the final top of the pyramid, the like upside down pyramid, which I think is the most fruitful and also the most intimidating. And again, we're talking about activities here because I wanted to address this upside down pyramid before we go into ideas of what you could be doing instead of spending your time shopping, which to me is the consumptive realm of the pyramid, and talk about all the other activities that you could be doing instead. I wanted to address this pyramid because it's easier to think of activities when you bucket them out like this. So going back to the very top of the pyramid, that last C would be creation. Looks like I have a little loop-de-loop in my hair here. All right, let's get back to the last top section of the pyramid here. This is my favorite part to talk about because, like I said, it can be very intimidating for people to think of creation. It sounds like you're literally starting from the infinite void, the ether, and you often are. It's so magical that artists, and I'm thinking specifically of visual artists who start with a blank canvas or a piece of paper because I just happen to have that background, every single piece of paper being totally blank, totally full of potential, and make it into its own universe. And then once that piece is over, you can start from scratch again. There's no correlation between both pieces of paper that usually come from the same stack. They're not tied together. And that's radical because the way that we think of time is a series of moments that are strung together and sit on a timeline, and they are very much interrelated in our minds. One moment usually causes something and there's an effect and it all sort of works out, but artists can disrupt that continuum and say, no, actually this white piece of paper and this white piece of paper actually don't mean anything to each other, and we can take them and blow them into totally different worlds, and it's just really magical. So anyway, I hope that didn't increase your anxiety around this idea of creation, because I truly believe every single person has a creative bone in their body. The biggest part of this is dreaming. You can call it imagination, you can call it whatever you like, daydreaming, night dreaming, but it takes some mental leaps that have nothing to do with the exterior world, but everything to do with your internal world, and letting that go without any physical limitations, without any fear of people judging it, because it's all inside. If you treat it like reality, it can start to shape how you try on different lenses, try on your perspectives, broaden your horizons without actually traveling anywhere. And that's where the richness of the mind's soil comes from, because it's a place of experimentation, of weirdness, of disruption, like good creative disruption, and play. And imagination encompasses all of these rich soil things. And why this is so different from something like consumption, which is at the bottom of the pyramid where creation is at the top. Like, let's take an example of shopping on Amazon. This is a very linear and invisible, to the consumer at least, invisible experience. You go on Amazon, you curate your cart, you figure out what you want, how much you're willing to part with money-wise to pay for this stuff, and you one-click shop it. And it will be delivered to you after a series of events happen, shipping all across the world just to be assembled in another country, just to get marketed and packaged from another country, and it passes so many hands. It destroys so many resources. All happens behind this screen. That said, it's a very linear thing. It's a trackable thing. Everything can be dotted line connected. And if we're in this space, shopping online all the time, and you're just ready to click and curate, and it just seems like a rinse and repeat thing, even though it ignites a fire of joy and anticipation in you just for a temporary moment, it is a very linear experience. And we often feel after coming out of it like we can't do anything if it isn't guided by an ad, guided by a product image, a product description, reviews. How many of you check reviews before you buy something, right? And finally, the CTA, a call to action. Shop now, take me home. You won't regret it. Without this billboard, basically, this little button that's in a bright color and it's telling you to take action. Without that, we often feel lost because we're in this place of experimentation or play or things that are jumbled. And if we're so used to having our hands held every single step of the way through online shopping, which is a big crux for me, oftentimes I wanted to feel calm or in control, and I would follow myself through that funnel, click shop, and I'd get a hit of adrenaline. I would feel like I had everything sorted out because I knew how to shop. But the minute we take all those frameworks away and we're suddenly asked to be in that level of creation where everything goes, the void is there, you have to create stuff from scratch, you have to find yourself and find your worth through drawing or music or whatever it is, I think it can be very scary. Ultimately, we're called to fail, possibly fail. And it's not a linear thing at all. There's no hand-holding, there's no call to action. You have to be the actioner and the decision maker and the creator all at once if you're to play in this realm. So I totally understand why it's very hard to replace the shopping experience with something else without feeling like a total failure or without feeling like you're suddenly out of sorts. It's very easy to just go back and scroll through hundreds of product pages, curate your own basket, and then get that little hit of adrenaline. Home stretch here. Today, we are going to try to break that mold. So I'm gonna give you some ideas, each of these categories, the 3 C's of consumption, curation, and creation. But I also have a worksheet that you can download to start building your own ideas of what activities would suit you and your interests, and hopefully you'll find it valuable. I've also added extra ideas, linked it down below. I also have it on SLOWGAZE.com. So let's go back to our friendly little triangle of consumption. I don't want to demonize consumption, and I don't want you to feel guilty. That is the last thing I want you to feel. I'm here telling you that I've been through this, telling you that I wanted to face my habits straight on, say that I had a shopping addiction, and say also to you that I've come out of it. I have been able to replace my shopping activities with other behaviors that I think are far more enriching. I told myself that I wasn't a shopper, right? I don't tell myself that I have a professional career in shopping, but that's how I was spending my time. To get out of that, I just had to acknowledge it and then move on. Things that don't specifically speak to shopping, because even anti-hauls do trigger a little response of, oh, they might not buy it, but I could buy it. And it's basically like browsing and window shopping with someone else, even though it's under the guise of, oh, I'm not gonna buy this, you're still basically shopping. So I would kind of check how many anti-hauls you're shopping and look more into podcasts, music. What articles can you read? Can you go into Skillshare? Watching a movie about James Dean, let's say. You know that he was a famous movie star, died pretty young back in, let's say, the 50s. When we're consuming, we often consume something, just the right amount of it. It's like snacks. You're just snacking all along and you don't really dive into the history of something. You don't look at the context of something, and we don't allow ourselves to ever dip under the surface before we move on to our next snack. If you're liking this James Dean movie or Nomadland, the recent movie that came out, which I loved, by the way, and you want to know more about the actor, even the director, or how they're filming this, what the budget was, deepen your understanding of something that you're enjoying on a more surface level. And even though you're consuming, you can consume more, but niche down. So create a little buffer, a little halo around your consumption habits, because you can't necessarily do that around shopping. You can around supply chains, but that's usually not very exciting. I like to use the example of designer goods. You know, think more about the fashion house that you're buying from. Are they using best practices? A lot of this stuff we like to gloss over, get the quick read from, and we don't really know that Yves Saint Laurent worked at Dior before and Charlotte Tilbury started her career at Tom Ford, right? Yeah, just so hidden behind personal brands and just whatever they want to market you. People don't really know the connective tissue behind all of this, and I would just implore you to think more about that because there's nothing wrong with consuming. But if you wanted to take it a step further and look into activities that are in the curation mode, I mentioned Pinterest, baking, which is a little bit funny to think about, but I also think gardening would be in here. And it's a wonderful equation of putting just time, effort, and a little bit of space, some sunlight and water in, and you get just phenomenal results. You can curate your items. Anything in your house could be part of this exercise. You could create digital Pinterest boards, not with things that are fed to you on your home feed, but actually take photos of your wardrobe, let's say, and then post them onto Pinterest. Put them on a secret board if you don't want other people to see. But if you're replacing a digital shopping habit with a digital activity, that transition might be a little bit easier. Creation. Write a letter. That's an act of creation. My dad has recently started scanning in his old photos. He's been sending me emails with a little photo embedded into an email and then a little line about his experience and what that memory brings up to him. I think reading is actually an act of creation. Now hear me out, it ignites your imagination. And even though it's a linear format, it still can linger after. You kind of embody those characters and take them with you even after the book has closed. You are imagining the world and filling in the gaps with sound, with taste, with all of this historical and imagined knowledge to make this a robust experience. You're actually collaborating with the author to come up with a scene in your head, and that's actually a really great gateway into the world of creation. So Diana, what do you mean if you're saying that reading a book is an act of creation and listening to an audiobook is also an act of creation, where actually watching a video or a movie is consumption? How can that be? To me, it is my own definition. Obviously you have to come up with your own, but to me, watching a video or watching a movie, they're kind of telling you everything. The visual information, the audio information, and the pacing of it. There's music, there's lighting, there's everything is there. You're not imagining too much. And yes, the characters can stay with you afterwards, but it's a fully formed world and you're just taking it in as all those decisions have been made for you. Books are only half that equation, and so to me that collaborative experience, especially with poetry and things that are a little bit more abstract that invite you to be more experimental and playful, those are more creative actions than they are consumptive actions. But again, there's gonna be some gray area. I just like to think of them as different to help encourage you to do more creative acts, even though you don't necessarily think of them as creative acts. The best part of this creation category is that most people can think easily of activities that fit into this, because it's just like any art activity or music activity or something. Like when you say creativity and creation, most people kind of get it. So I'm not going to belabor this one. This video has gone on long enough. I have that downloadable PDF. I have more ideas on more activities that you can pursue and see what's right for you in a little worksheet, so please check it out down below. But otherwise, I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you are embarking on a low buy or a no buy, please comment down below. I think it's so brave of you. I think it's a really radical act. I applaud you. I encourage you. I'm here for you. So comment down below. Check me out on SLOWGAZE. DM me. I love hearing your own stories and testimonials about how that's going. Please help your own community out. If you're on a low buy, likelihood is someone else here watching this video is too, so drop a comment and I'll see you on my next video. Stay safe, take care. I really can't wait to see you again. Adios.